why I took down the socionics video that I did, the first one I did, on the hidden agenda function. And the first reason is I wasn't completely satisfied with what I said. I don't think I said anything that was completely wrong, but I just wasn't fully satisfied with what I said. And the second reason is that I think socionics is sort of self-consciously attempting to be more scientific than I think typology really is and can be, because it's so, you always have a unique person when you're dealing with someone, and you always have a unique analyst, so it's hard to be scientific about that. So that's why I took this down, or that down, and I took some other videos down that I did. And so now I'm going to be replacing them with some videos on the tertiary function, which is the same as the hidden agenda function in socionics. And these videos are going to be focusing on how the tertiary function separates the sister types from one another. The sister types being the ENTP and the INTP, the ESTP and the ISTP. And so today it's going to be the ENTP and the INTP, and how extroverted feeling in the ENTP and the INTP, and introverted sensing in the ENTP and the INTP, how that distinguishes the two types. Of course, there is the bit about how the ENTPs have to come up for air because they're dominant extroverted intuitors, while the INTPs have to go in for air because they're dominant introverted thinkers. And that's true, but this is just going to be a different perspective based on the tertiary function. So, and the repressed function, really. So, in ENTPs, SI, introverted sensing, is repressed. And so this makes them very averse to codification. What I mean by that is, you take someone like Socrates, who's an ENTP, he's very much against writing things down. Because as soon as you write it down, it's codified. There's nothing more that extroverted intuition can say about it. It's settled, and it's the death of extroverted intuition, this wide range of possibilities in the ENTP. And so this can be good for the ENTP, and it can be bad for the ENTP. One of the ENTP's main strengths is that they sort of throw out the assumptions. They throw out everything that's assumed to be true based on prior knowledge. So you take someone like Wolfgang Pauli, who is able to throw out all these traditional, laws of determinism when he's looking at quantum mechanics, and he's able to speculate freely whether the whether the psychological state of the observer is going to affect the quantum state of what he's observing. I think nowadays we don't think that, but you're still able to. Whereas the INTP, Albert Einstein, is very resistant to this idea of quantum mechanics breaking determinism and being very much a challenge to what has already been codified, because his introverted sensing is not repressed; it's tertiary. So he is able to codify. And that is one of the great strengths of the INTP as well. Whenever there's a function in a certain place, there's usually a strength of that function being there, and there's usually a downfall of that function being there. But in INTPs, the strength of having tertiary introverted sensing, I think, is it makes them excellent system builders. You see a lot of talk about how introverted thinking is what makes the INTP such a good system builder, and yet you don't really see the system building in the ISTP, even though that type also is an introverted thinking dominant type. So I think it is introverted sensing that helps the INTP be such a good system builder, because they are able to take a large number of facts and put them in a system where they are represented elegantly by a few principles. You take someone like Charles Darwin, who takes this number of facts about birds' different beaks and stuff like that, and he represents them in a system of evolution, and we have that very elegant system. So that's the strength of introverted sensing, being tertiary. I didn't talk about the ENTP's introverted sensing being a bad thing, but it can make them very inconsistent, since they are not building a grand system where they can't be contradicted like the INTP. So Celebrity Types has said in one of their articles about the aesthetic of Hume or Nietzsche that that David Hume was one of those philosophers who said everything, and so you could pair two things that he said against each other, and they would cancel each other out. So that's sort of the downfall of not having the codifying heuristic of introverted sensation. And so that's introverted sensation and how it separates the NTPs. So now I'm going to talk about extroverted feeling and how it separates the NTPs. So INTPs repress extroverted feeling. And I think this makes them especially acute systematizers. It's not the good word for it. Because they have such a mistrust of sort of the expressive sentiments and the sort of unreliable, imprecise, sort of allegorical nature of extroverted feeling. So you take someone like Thales of Miletus, who looks at this melodrama of the gods, and he sort of rejects it because of his repressed extroverted feeling, and puts down logical, reliable ways to predict whether, a sailor will get lost at sea. He doesn't have to rely on, the sort of the expressive sentiment of whether Neptune is feeling, groggy that day or not. So that's the strength of repressed extroverted feeling. It makes them very acute system builders. And of course we get the sort of Heraclitean opposing processes thing where you can't really tell if you're looking at dominant introverted thinking or repressed extroverted feeling, because those two are so intertwined. You can't tell if they are rejecting the imprecise nature of extroverted feeling or if they are indulging in the very precise nature of introverted thinking. And it's really the same thing. Of course, there is a downside to extroverted feeling being repressed. For example, there's a Richard Dawkins video where he gets very upset with his audience for laughing when it appears to me to be completely good-natured. I think he has this sort of skepticism of expressive sympathies, and so he gets annoyed and sort of threatened by it. I'll put that video in the description. And then there's the INTP Randall Munroe, who is the author of XKCD, and he has a lot of comics about how the debate scene is sort of ridiculous, because the debate scene by nature is sort of this negative, aggressive sympathy that is aversive to extroverted feeling. So he has a lot of comics about the ridiculousness of debate. So those are the INTPs and their repressed extroverted feeling. But the ENTPs don't repress extroverted feeling. They have it in the tertiary position. So they are not averse to expressive sympathies like the INTP is. So they can and love to join in debate. You take philosophers like Socrates and Xenophanes, who do not withdraw from this scene of being criticized and these negative sympathies. They actually go out and indulge in them. They go out and, quote, scorn the public. And so this leads to, famously the Socratic method and all that good stuff. But of course, it also is what got Socrates killed, this sort of Socratic aggressiveness. And so, yeah, those are the NTPs and how their tertiary function and repressed function set them apart. I think I'll probably do 7 more of these. I have 2 more, basically, scripts written for them. So we'll see what happens. Alright, bye.